So you were both on the site apartmenttherapy.com, and they did a feature on your beautifully decorated tiny house. And it garnered, almost 90 comments, which seems to be a lot for that site. So a lot of people were very supportive of it. And one person wrote, "Bravo to you both. Your project on apartment therapy is one of the sanest, most charming projects to appear on the site. Maybe my reaction stems from my current sense that my partner and I need to downsize and liberate ourselves from the demands of larger spaces and too many possessions." I'm wondering how common is that reaction to your tiny home, to the movement? Is it sort of like someone talking about, being a vegetarian, where a light goes off and they're, "Oh, really? How did you do that?" Or, as you said, there has been some opposition where people don't like it for whatever reason. But is it mostly supportive that you've received? Like, a lot of people, they seem interested in it, or is there some questioning involved?
Yeah, I would say it's been maybe 75%, positive, just sort of the feedback that we've gotten online and things like that. And I think maybe one of our biggest hopes for the film is that, just it might, in the same way that when we read that article in 2009, the tiny house thing was kind of this little seed in the back of my mind, just to kind of spark something for someone, no matter what direction it takes them in, that's sort of like, oh, there's another option, or like, oh, that's really interesting, or maybe I could think about it this way. And so that's been really exciting, and then I think, the other 25% is, there is something about sort of like home that really kind of reaches to the core of who we think we are, and so I think that does kind of unsettle people a little bit when they maybe see this and they interpret it as, that we're saying that the way they live is wrong, or that they should be doing this, which is totally not what we've been, we've been pretty careful to kind of craft our message in a way that would not, be threatening to people. But I think it is, at times threatening to people because, home is so attached to our identity.
I think that, our lives with all this new technology, and then we have, probably several bank accounts or several checking accounts, and you have your school and your work or whatever, and you have all these things that your life, our modern lives really are really quite complicated. And I think that, people perhaps feel a lot, maybe, at least I know I do, like sometimes feel just out of control, like I'm always forgetting something because there's so much going on and it's hard to balance all those things. And then you see something like a tiny house, and it's a sort of reminder of how, life could be, perhaps, like how, oh, wouldn't that be great, this like simple, sort of idyllic lifestyle. And I think, that's also sort of the impetus behind a lot of people wanting to downsize, and I think it's great, in a lot of ways. It's, I think you do feel like a saner person, when you downsize, and so I think a lot of people's support comes from that, like the quote of the comment that you just read, and then also there is, I think, perhaps there's a certain element of, maybe it calls to mind something from when you were a child. There's something very kind of almost fairy tale-ish of it that I've noticed. That's what appeals to me almost. It's like, it's, like playing in forts or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And aside from the general sort of, YouTube troll or something that bashes things, why do you think people feel threatened? Because the way you've presented the message is not in any way sort of this dogma where you need to do it this way. And the flip side could be said about a larger home. A lot of times a larger home won't retain its value if there are smaller homes around it. Is that sort of where people are feeling threatened, or is it they feel that people are on the fringe that would live in these homes and it would threaten the quality of their neighborhoods? Where does this...
Yeah, I think, there is, when people have worked really hard for something, I think that I totally understand how they might feel like, oh, but you're saying that I've worked really hard for this thing, and now you're saying that that's not what I should have been working for, or that maybe that wasn't worthwhile. And I think, that we're not, like I said, everyone needs to decide that for themselves. We're not trying to sort of poke holes in anyone's lives or anything like that. But I think, when we are presenting a lot of options, and I think that there's always going to be a case where someone's kind of like, oh, there is this other option, and rather than feeling inspired, it might feel like a little bit deflated, or might feel like a little bit defensive because of that. But I think, at the same time, that it sparks something, and even if they don't feel great about it at first, hopefully, it sparks something that will kind of help them, you know, figure out whatever they need to figure out.
Yeah, I think people's reactions are almost always about their lives and like what they have going on, and it actually is less to do with what we're doing, and then more what it brings up for themselves, you know. And I feel like you get people who are perhaps going through all these financial issues who see it and are like, oh, that's what I need, and then they're supportive. Then you see all these other people who, you know, maybe just heard from somebody else that their lifestyle is wrong, and then they see us doing this project, and then they're projecting that into what we're doing. And so I actually think a lot of the comments are, you know, they say more about the person saying them than they do about our particular project.